lot of sensitive people right now feel emotionally exhausted. They're overwhelmed, disconnected, overstimulated, and unable to recover fully even when they rest. You might have been feeling some of these things if you're the type of person to watch my videos. And I want you to know that this exhaustion that you may be feeling from time to time, or maybe right now, is not random. What it is, it's a side effect of a rapid transformational process that we're all going through emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. And sensitive people are feeling it first. Humanity's changing. We are waking up. And for a lot of people, that sounds like just another pie in the sky spiritual fantasy. But for those of you who are sensitive to the energies, you know what I'm talking about. You can see it in the news and you can see it in your own psyche. People who are sensitive to energy, to emotions, are like barometers, very sensitive, emotional barometers. So there's a certain loneliness also in a lot of people that are sensing these things because while all the energy's changing, most people don't see it, they don't experience it. And you need to know that you do not require the people around you to validate this experience. It can be hard. People can say, well, you're just lazy, you're depressed, you need some medication or something, who knows. But probably what you need is a little bit different, and we will get to that. Now, the main thing that causes spiritual exhaustion, emotional exhaustion, is our innate resistance to change. And just because you're a spiritually minded person and sensitive energetically and emotionally does not mean that you embrace the change that maybe ideally you need to embrace. Because to the degree that we are sensitive, we tend to hang on to what buffers us from the sensitivity that makes things difficult. So it's not weird if we kind of hold on to certain beliefs, certain patterns, possibly addictions, to soothe ourselves in this moment of transformation. So it's not the change that is difficult and tiring as much as the resistance to the change a lot of times. And you might think, well, I'm not resisting. Sign me up. I'm all about it. But that doesn't mean that there aren't parts of you and your ego that are fully resisting it. And one of the best ways to resist something is to think you're not resisting at all. That's a great way to stay stuck. And being stuck is going to be draining. So the river is flowing, things are moving, and we need to get with the transformation rather than cling on to things. What we need in order to transform is we need to release certain emotions. And A lot of times, the emotions that we need to release are emotions that we feel kept us safe in the past. Like for me, I had a lot of grudges growing up because I was in a toxic environment. And I did need to protect myself from the toxicity that was all around me. But I protected myself with my own toxicity. And maybe for a point, that was a good thing. Maybe it did keep me safe for a little while. But then I grew up and I still had the grudge. I still had the toxicity. And so that was something that I've had to come to terms with and kind of never really feel like I'm totally done clearing it. Because as soon as you think you're done, you quit looking at the issue. Now, as you change these emotional patterns, your identity changes and it needs to. And then you get into a place of uncertainty, and your nervous system can be a little bit shot through this transformation because you get bombarded. You might be bombarded by regrets from the past. You might be bombarded from fears of what it's going to be like going forward. And when we choose to hang on to our old patterns rather than release them, that also takes energy, and that energy is also draining. So it's very tiring to hold on to the past, whether it be an old identity, an old emotional pattern, or whatever. But it's also very tiring to reinvent your whole life. So give yourself a break. But when we do stop fighting the process and we realize that we are in a period of global spiritual ascension, we can angle ourselves like you would a sailboat where you have the wind to your back and it's a straight shot forward and the universe is helping you. We suffer less and get less exhausted when we cooperate with our own emotional truth. We allow our identity and our patterns to evolve. We stop performing according to the old script of our life and stop resisting the emotions that come up. And that's one of the main things. You always have emotions that come up. And if you perceive them as negative, I promise you there's a lesson in those emotions. And if you do the work and digest the emotions, which means learn the lesson and let go of the rest, the shit, then you'll get to a point where this starts getting a lot easier. And it turns from being this grueling process of ego death and holding on to ego only to have it pulled out of your hands to a process of sailing effortlessly into a new reality. It's not about bypassing the so called negativity. It's not about being passive. It's not, and I repeat, not about adopting some spiritual persona where you pretend like everything is perfect and everything is positive. Everything is not positive as long as you're in 3D. And everything in you is not positive as long as you're in 3D. But as you evolve, and you get out of this oppositional third dimensional reality and reconcile some of these things, then you get into a realm where everything is much more positive, if not only. So, what can you do to make that happen? Well, for example, tell the truth emotionally. How do you feel? Not fine. How do you feel? Resist the neutral middle ground. Do you feel like shit or do you feel amazing? Say it and get used to saying it. For me, growing up, a little too smart for my own good, my intelligence was seen as a sign of weakness. And so I wanted to accentuate this badass masculine thing. And I didn't fool anybody. Maybe I fooled myself, but I didn't tell the truth emotionally. I never said I was scared or nervous or insecure or any of those things to anybody. And the idea of saying those things to anybody would terrify me. There's no way. I wouldn't even say it to myself. I wouldn't have even admit to myself how insecure and terrified I was in life. And because of that, I didn't get to see that everybody else is too, in their own way. Another thing is to not hold on to the current form of certain relationships. There are relationships that you are literally feeding with your life force. It doesn't mean that you need to end them, but you might need to put less energy into them because they are putting less energy into you. And it would just be more authentic. A lot of us jump through a lot of hoops to be in relationships, friendships that really don't give us very much. And that is a disservice to us and to the other person who could be hanging out with somebody who really is connected with them more. So, reassigning these kind of inauthentic relationships can really free up a lot of energy, a lot of space. Another thing is trusting your intuition. This is a process because it's hard to know what is an intuition and what is just a thought. What is an authentic intuition and what is an inauthentic thought that is really there to bolster the ego. Another thing is just simplifying your life, saying no to drama, and saying no to drama in a nice way. And knowing that you don't have to engage in every drama, every little hook that's thrown at you, every opportunity to participate in drama. So, exhaustion isn't going to disappear overnight. Even aligned transformation can be tiring, but there's an unhealthy type of exhaustion which comes from emotional resistance, emotional suppression, identity conflict, spiritual disconnection, pretending to be who you are not, who you think others need you to be, and fear. These are unhealthy sources of exhaustion. But there are healthy sources of exhaustion, like exercise, like a hard day of physical labor, meaningful effort, personal growth, emotional honesty, and living authentically. There's a difference between being drained and being deeply used by life in a meaningful way, being at service to your life purpose. One kind of exhaustion depletes your spirit, your life force, and the other strengthens it. You're not tired, you're not exhausted because you're a weak person. Being sensitive is a good thing. If your eyes are sensitive, you see more. If your ears are sensitive, you can hear a wider range of sound. And if your emotions are sensitive, your door to intuition is wide open, even though you might not have been using that portal for yourself. So it's not weak to be sensitive, it's actually very empowering. And transformation is something to seek out. But the only transformation you require is transforming into your authentic self. The fact is, when we stop resisting who we are becoming and the universe is guiding us in a certain direction, that exhaustion that you've been feeling starts turning into aliveness, vitality, and joy. This period of change is going somewhere. You are the seed, you have sprouted, but now you're pushing through the dirt, and maybe you haven't gotten to the sunlight yet, and it just seems like drudgery. Keep going. You're going to break on through. And then as you get fed by that sunlight, you're going to manifest a whole other level of acceleration into the authentic you that you've been needing to be your entire life and maybe multiple lifetimes. Let me know what happens if you put these ideas into practice in your life. And if you need help with it, I'm always here. Thank you.